Okay. All right, we'll get started. I know we have a lot of people on the screen. Typically, we don't have everybody's video on because it makes it a little tougher to recognize the members. So if people could go on to, take off the video, it helps the meeting go forward. Not that I don't like to see all of the faces, but just makes it easier to run the meeting. That's, thank you. Ready to go? Welcome to, so we're ready to go into the meeting. So we're scheduled for the regular meeting at 6:30, correct? That's correct, right?
Yep. First item of business, Mayor, is a presentation of certificates of academic achievement.
Yep. Well, we're ready to start. I'll start the meeting off, and then we'll go to the agenda. Dr. Toweiler.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I want to welcome everyone to the fourth regular meeting of the Lynn School Committee, Thursday, February 25th, 2021. As a preliminary matter, we'll confirm attendance. Nan, would you please confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear us?
Mr. Cassianis?
Present.
Ms. Capola?
Present.
Mr. Ford?
Present.
Ms. Gately? Present. Mr. Nicholson?
Present.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Present.
Mayor McGee?
Present.
All present.
And also those who will be part of if we could just identify who will be part of the...
Dr. Tutwiler, Superintendent Tutwiler, Ms. Powers, Ms. Ruggiero, Mr. McHugh, Mary Jules, and Attorney Myhouse are all here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nan.
Yep.
Want to say good evening and thank you for joining us. This open meeting of the Lynn School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings and as such, the governor's orders. I'd ask if anyone's, if everyone would mute if they're not, there's something coming up, so if people would stay muted until they're ready to speak, that would be helpful. Thank you. The governor suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order can be found posted with agenda materials for this meeting on the city website. Allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Lynn School Department is convening by telephone conference video conference via the Zoom platform is posted on the city's website and on the Lynn Public Schools website. Additionally, this meeting can be viewed on the local cable channels, Channel 3 for Comcast, Channel 37 for Verizon. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We are now turning to before we turn to the first item on the agenda, I want to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chairman, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. If you could hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourselves. Again, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. With that, I would ask you all to rise and join me in a salute to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, Dr. Tutwiler, the first business on the agenda, as you stated earlier, is appointments, elections. If you'd like to start with that, it'd be great. Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler.
Mayor, I just wanted to, I think we're starting with some certificates for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Please, if you'd start with that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thrilled to. I think most folks know I was a high school principal for 8 years. And since leaving the principalship, I don't have, this is my only opportunity to hand out an award to a student. So I'm super excited to do so. The Mass Association of School Superintendents provides each district an annual award for high school students who have distinguished themselves in the pursuit of excellence over the course of their 4 years in high school. And it's my pleasure to present these 6 incredible individuals this evening. Now, we've got quite a bit of people on the call, Mayor, and I'm not sure if the student is. I see her principal, but I'm going to talk about her anyway. Here we go. The first recipient is someone known to us, Kathleen Mannion, known to us as Kitty Mannion, senior at Lynn Classical, ranked #1 in her class with a GPA of 4.51. Kitty has some incredible honors, National Honor Society, many academic awards. She's held a number of leadership roles, captain of the soccer team, captain of the girls swim team, and is also deeply involved in her church, teaching CCD, religious education, and engaging in various other volunteer activities. She's got an incredible list of colleges that she's applied to, including Bryn Mawr, Columbia, Tufts, Notre Dame, Hamilton, Harvard. I could go on. It is my pleasure to present this award to Kitty Mannion. Now, Kitty is also a school committee student representative. So if she's on the call and would like to say something, this is familiar territory. Be our guest. I'm going to take that as a no.
and congratulations from everyone. People were clapping remotely, and amazing work she's doing, and congratulations.
Absolutely. And just by way of information, all of these students have been mailed a beautiful document with my signature, as well as I believe the mayor's signature is on there as well. The next student, also a part of the RAM fam, as they call it, Sebastian Cost Reyes, ranked second in a class of 337 students with a GPA of 4.51. Many academic awards, the Junior Book Award, the John and Abigail Adams Scholar. Sebastian's involved in the National Honor Society, the Equity Panel, which I wonder if that is the inclusive panel, English Club, senior editor for the school newspaper, the list goes on. Sebastian is also involved at My Brother's Table and Catholic Charities. Sebastian has an incredible list of colleges, Dartmouth, Columbia, and Brown. And I have a note here that there's an acceptance as a Quest Bridge Scholar to Dartmouth. So congratulations to Sebastian.
Congratulations.
Sebastian, if you're on the call, I welcome you to unmute and say some words if you'd like.
Hi, everybody. This is really nerve-wracking.
That's all right. We're doing great so far.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly thank everybody here. I see a few familiar faces. And I just wanted to thank the staff. And if any of my family sees this, I want to thank them too, because I wouldn't be here without them.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Congratulations.
You're the best. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on to Lynn English, I'm going to start with the student who was ranked first in his class, a familiar face on these calls, Mr. Ignacio Fermin, currently with a GPA of 4.51. Again, incredible list of accomplishments and awards. The American Legion for Scholastic Excellence, Silver Medal, Marine Corps Reserve Officers Association Award. I think I first met Eric Ignacio when he was a freshman or a sophomore as part of a JROTC event. Big smile on his face. I know he still has that. I hope he's on the call and we can see that. So deeply involved in the JROTC, also involved in the Friends of Rachel Club, many community service involvement situations, getting involved in parades, veteran ceremonies, many of these, I believe, through his participation in JROTC. And by the way, you might bump into him at Market Basket because he works there. Now, at our last meeting, I referred to him, or said we would refer to him going forward as Harvard admitted Eric Ignacio Fermin going forward. So we know he's been admitted there, but there's also applications to Princeton, Columbia, and Yale. Just so proud of all of these students. Eric Ignacio, if you're on the call and would like to say something, I welcome you to, but I congratulate you on an incredible academic career.
So yeah, thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. It's an honor to be here, an honor to see everyone. And I just wanted to, quick video. But yeah, I got real fancy for this event. But yeah, it's great. Following what Sebastian said, yeah, thanks to everyone here, thanks to my family, and yeah, it's been one heck of a journey, and we got to continue.
The journey continues. Before you turn that camera off, are those Lynn English colors you're wearing purposely?
Oh, well, it's it's a little more like wine red than maroon, but yeah.
Okay.
Looks like Harvard.
Harvard. Yeah.
Harvard colors.
We are so proud of you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
I will stay with Lynn English and move along to the student who's currently ranked second, Samantha Parker, with a GPA of 4.4922. Again, an incredible list of accomplishments, part of the National Honor Society, member of the yearbook club, class officer, also on the swim team. Samantha has applied to Tufts, BU, and Northeastern. I assume may or may not have heard back from those schools, or will be interested to know. But one thing that jumped out on her information sheet is that she loves to bake and does so and sells her baked goods for the Alzheimer's Association and Children's Hospital to raise money. Really, really super proud of you, Samantha. If you're on the call, please unmute. We'd like to celebrate you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone here too, and my parents. I haven't heard from those schools yet, okay, but I'm still waiting.
Well, I have a good feeling for you. You've done really, really amazing work while at English. Can we just ask, what's your specialty with baking?
Cookies, definitely.
Cookies, what kind?
Yeah, chocolate chip, I would say.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see me, but I look this way because of the chocolate chip cookie, okay?
We can deliver some.
Please don't, I've had enough. I've had enough. Congratulations, Samantha, we're so proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the Tech Tigers. It is my pleasure to celebrate Jacqueline Villatoro, ranked number one in her class with a GPA of 4.3167. Among the many things that jumped out on her information sheet is the fact that Jacqueline is an accomplished cellist, I believe. I know she's in the orchestra. I have to double check on the instrument, but she's received the Harvard Book Award. She's a Quest Bridge finalist. Another thing that jumped out is that she participated in the technical after school program. Super excited about that. And then many community service activities through the Skills USA, which is a real gem, not just at the school, but within the city. Jacqueline is currently waiting to hear back from, I assume, from Endicott, Tufts, and Brown. Jacqueline, are you with us this evening?
Hi, yes, I am. Thank you so much for this. And yeah, I'm still hearing back from Endicott College. I'm not going to Brown or Tufts anymore, but hopefully I get into Endicott.
I'm sure you will.
And I am not a cellist.
Whoa, what's the instrument of choice?
I used to play the violin, but I stopped. Now I play the piano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am proud of you nonetheless, and I wish you the best. You've done such incredible work at Lynn Tech. And what shop do you belong to?
I'm in health tech.
Health tech. Career in what field are you thinking about?
Right now I'm thinking of maybe becoming a psychologist.
Excellent.
So I wanted to be in a nursing program, but I think I want to go into that field.
Well, the whatever path you travel, I have a strong feeling that you're going to be successful. I wish you the best.
All right. Thank you so much.
I'm going to stop asking you questions now.
All right.
Okay. Best of luck. We're so proud of you. And then finally, it is my pleasure to celebrate Emily DeVoe at Lynn Tech, ranked second in her class with a GPA of 4.28. Again, incredible activities and community service. Skills USA, she's involved with that. The work experience is incredible. Shaw's, Burger King in a leadership capacity, Dunks in a leadership capacity. Loves to paint and draw. I'm going to assume is in the engineering shop with applications out to Wentworth, UMass Lowell, and UMass Amherst. Emily, are you with us this evening?
Yeah, I am here. I just had some internet issues.
That's all right. We can hear you just fine. Was I correct with my guess of engineering?
Yeah, you are.
Tell us about your plans.
I want to go to UMass Lowell right now for engineering, but I'm thinking of maybe changing to more of like a political science. So I'm still opening my options for when I go there.
The world is yours, and that's the nice thing about being in your position is you have options. And I have to tell you, I'm so incredibly proud of you, and we wish you the best.
Thank you.
All right. That is all of the students that I have to present this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler, and from myself and the full school committee, congratulations to all the students. Amazing work and amazing accomplishments for all of you. Very proud of the work you're doing and wishing you the best as you move forward. You make us all proud. Good work.
We'll start with the, I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 25th meeting of the Athletic Subcommittee. And the purpose of tonight's meeting is to vote on the opening of winter sports. Dr. Tutwiler has maybe a couple of words to say on that.
Just a few. I mean, it has been a long road for not just our student athletes, but for the entire community. And I'm pleased, as I know many of you are, or all of you are, that we're at a place where we can safely invite our student athletes to engage in interscholastic athletics. We have sweat every detail in terms. Oh, you're muted. That's too bad because I was in a groove. Okay, I'll start all over. You gotta tell me quicker than that, Brian, next time. Well, all I said is we're pleased that we're at a point where we can safely invite students to participate in interscholastic athletics again. We have sweat every detail in terms of planning and developing safety protocols in partnership with our nursing department and with the city's health director. I really applaud the building principals, the athletic directors, the coaches, Deputy Superintendent Ruggiero, Mike Geary. I mean, there's been a lot of fingerprints on the final plans, but we're ready to go. And per the mayor's request, we're bringing this back to the athletics subcommittee for a vote to approve the commencement of winter athletics.
I think I can speak, at least for the subcommittee, and I'm sure the whole committee, that we're all very excited about an opportunity to approve the winter sports program. And I would like to entertain a motion to approve winter sports by the Lynn School Committee.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Nance?
Okay.
Jared had some comments he wanted to make.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just real quick, thank you. I want to thank my colleagues and everybody that Dr. Tutwiler mentioned, the mayor and the city's health department, the coaches, the administrators, the health team that all made this happen. I also just want to thank the student athletes for their advocacy, for their patience, for their commitment, and we're really excited for you to have this opportunity. You deserve it, and we wish you the best of luck.
Hey, Brian, did you want to say something to the mayor?
Yes, please. Just to echo my colleagues and everyone involved in the process. It's been a long journey. The student athletes and coaches and everyone involved really, there's so much to say about that, and I'm very grateful for just the focus of what we're looking for moving forward. Also, just to recognize our teachers and staff and folks involved in the process as well. Definitely something that is very important as well to note. And I know that by the 340 participants tonight, that thank you, all the teachers out there and the folks, the coaches, athletic directors, and people involved in the city of Lynn. Athletics are very important, and I have been able to really see a lot of progress with this. And I thank the mayor, his team, and Dr. Tutwiler on the process. Thank you.
Mayor McGee?
Thanks, and I'd like to, I guess, echo what everyone had to say. This has been a real challenging time. This working on a year now from when we really last March, when all of our world turned upside down, and I know there's been a lot of people have been very patient, but it's been a real challenge, and I just want to thank everyone that worked hard to put the protocols together. The health director keeping it focused on this, Dr. Tutwiler, the administration, obviously the teachers and the athletic directors and the coaches and the principals really worked hard to make sure that we're able to move this forward. We had a really good meeting talking about the safety protocols and how important they would be. Safety first, but just as importantly, an opportunity for all three seasons of sports to move forward. And I know that Tech is not in the GBL, but I'd be remiss if I didn't thank and I think I speak for everyone that's been involved, the GBL, the Greater Boston League, for their support. They're voting in unanimously the city's teams, English and classical, but more importantly, being flexible and understanding the challenges that the communities like Lynn have faced. In that league, most of those communities have been probably the most impacted over the last year through COVID, this pandemic, and with flexible scheduling, making sure that hopefully all the games will be played, backloading the schedule, making sure that there'll be an opportunity to get these sports in. A lot of work went into this, so I think it's a good opportunity for us tonight to support that, but to recognize that to get here was a lot of effort, time, and energy that went into making sure that the students had the opportunity, and just as importantly, that we're keeping them, the teachers, the coaches, and the families safe with the kind of protocols that will that I think are sensible to allow us to move forward. So, thanks to everyone that made this next step a reality.
Yeah, just a sidebar, the governor announced today they're going to allow fans to start attending the professional sporting events. So maybe this is the beginning of the end, I hope. I will move forward and entertain Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Castellanos?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Yes. And Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And that's recommended to the full committee?
Yes, recommended to full committee.
Okay. Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn made and seconded. Meeting is adjourned.
No, we've as of 6:30, we went to the meeting to give out the awards. We'll start the full meeting in
2 minutes.
less than 2 minutes at 7 o'clock. We'll go into the full meeting and we'll start through the agenda, reflective of what all of the members have and has been posted on the city's website and throughout. So we'll go in about 6:59. We'll wait right till 7 o'clock and we'll go right into the meeting. And Dr. Tutwiler, the first order of business on the agenda is your appointments and elections. So you can be prepared for that, and we'll jump right in and get moving along.
We should have planned for a musical interlude from one of the award winners.
That's correct. We'll have to work on that.
We could just thank them in person now. Very good job, congratulate them for doing such a great job.
That's such a fun award.
Great.
Yeah. How exciting for them where they're going and their new adventure.
Let's see.
They work hard for it.
Congratulations and good luck to all.
Yep.
Do we have everyone here to move forward? 7 o'clock.
Ready.
Dr. Tutwiler, I think, ready to go? And all the members? Dr. Tutwiler, if you
You want a roll call?
we can do a roll call as we jump into this. We'll do a roll call for to assure that everyone's here, and then we'll go right into Dr. Tutwiler's recommendations on the appointments. That'll be great, Nan. Thank you.
Mr. Castellanos?
Present.
Ms. Capola? Ms. Capola? Donna, I see her. Okay. Mr. Ford?
Present.
Present, sorry.
It's okay, I got you. Ms. Gately?
Present.
Okay. Mr. Nicholson?
Present.
Yes. Mr. Satterwhite? Yes, I saw him. Mr. Satterwhite? He's here. And Mayor McGee?
Present.
Yes, okay. 7 o'clock, yep.
Dr. Tutwiler?
Yeah, first on the agenda, Mayor, is appointments and elections. There is one. It's my pleasure to announce the appointment of Zach Fucci as the Assistant Network Administrator. For those who know this individual, he is young and extremely talented, a whiz, if you will. And so we are thrilled to elevate him to the role of Assistant Network Administrator. Had a quick chat with him this morning. Very excited about this appointment. So I wish him well in this work, and we need him.
Is he available on the call, or are we just going to...
I do not believe that he is. I will triple check here. He is, actually. He is.
Oh, great.
Jack, if you want to say a few words, I welcome you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. It's an honor to receive this position, and I'm really excited to work with Lynn and everyone here. And thank you again.
You're most welcome. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Zachary. And Dr. Tutwiler, you may want to introduce her again. If she's still on, but I think we have a new student member as of today. I
Yes.
understand. It's would you like to recognize her again? Because she was also recognized earlier as having an amazing record.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to welcome Jacqueline Villatoro from Lynn Tech as the school committee student representative. Welcome aboard.
Deputy Superintendent Ruggiero.
She's muted.
It's actually Emily DeVoe.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Jacqueline's still here. Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Jacqueline, I'm glad you stayed. I thought it was you, but it's Emily. I'm sorry, Emily. Emily, welcome as the new student, school committee student representative.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler, and welcome aboard, Emily.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you on. Next up is we have several presentations. Dr. Tutwiler, would you like to lead into the first presentation?
Glad to. I think I would say that it was a real point of pride for me in partnership with the school committee with the adoption of the resolution to eradicate racism in the Lynn Public Schools on June 11th. I won't read the entire resolution, but I will point out a couple of important parts. It talks about whereas there remains unfinished work in the Lynn Public Schools, including recruiting, supporting, and retaining a diverse staff, providing professional development and opportunities for all educators focused on trauma-sensitive practices, cultural proficiency, culturally and linguistically responsive instruction, and anti-bias curriculum. It goes on to say that whereas this work remains top priority for the Lynn Public Schools, be it resolved that the Lynn Public Schools shall implement training such as an anti-bias, anti-racism, and cultural competency training into the mandatory professional development for all educators to take. I didn't read that verbatim, but again, a real point of pride and a charge that that I, along with the deputy superintendents, our entire leadership team, took seriously. We, in partnership with an individual who's really become like family to me personally and to members of this district. His name is Matthew Rodriguez from the Equity Imperative. Rolled our sleeves up and really began to put together a plan to address the learning needs of the district relative to this resolution. I am pleased to introduce Matthew in partnership with Michael Molnar, who are the real architects of the Hope and Healing anti-racist professional development that we launched on January 4th and continues to this day. And we actually plan to take it through the first quarter of next year. And so without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Matthew and Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. And if whoever could let me share my screen, that would be wonderful, so that way I can share a little bit of a slideshow. But I share in the point of celebration that Dr. Tutwiler starts with really to the school committee for taking a stand and drawing out a resolution to fundamentally eradicate racism. I applaud you. I saw it happen. I'm here in Chicago and I was applauding you all the way from the Midwest. Hopefully you felt my applause. And what's most impactful is not just the words, but also the leaders that you have in place to execute the words into action. I applaud the work of Dr. Tutwiler. I share with you the school committee in Lynn that I've partnered with about 6 school districts in different states, Massachusetts, in the state of Illinois and also in the state of Texas. You have a rare leader in Dr. Tutwiler, and being able to lead this kind of work with the kind of courage, the kind of boldness, but also with the kind of empathy, care, and compassion for not just the staff, teachers, not just the leaders, but most of all for the students and for the families. So I applaud you in that work. And we were invited to really partner with Lynn Public Schools in this charge, as Dr. Tutwiler called it, to eradicate racism, which is a pretty daunting task. And Dr. T, I think we can get it done in about in 1 year. What do you think? I hope that that's the case. But here we go, moving into it. If I may, again, I'm going to try to go ahead and share my screen so that way I can share the slides and we can do this in a productive way. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen now, just to make sure that we're all good. Awesome. You all had a chance to look at the slides that I sent in advance. I started first with a quote from Dr. Beverly Tatum. I'm just going to read a section of it just as a reminder of what is this work we call anti-racism. In her quote, in her book, that's titled, "Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?" Dr. Tatum writes, "Some of the bystanders who are on a conveyor belt may feel the motion of the conveyor belt, see the active racist ahead of them, and choose to turn around, unwilling to go in the same destination as the white supremacists. But unless they are walking actively in the opposite direction at a speed faster than the conveyor belt, unless they are actively anti-racist, they will find themselves carried along with the others." This work that she highlights is demonstrating the way that in our society and also inside of our very own schools, we're all on a conveyor belt that leads us to the racialized outcomes that we see on a daily basis, whether it's in standardized test performance, whether it's in attendance, whether it's in behavior and discipline. There is a conveyor belt that's at play. Unless we're willing to turn ourselves around and walk at a speed faster than the conveyor belt, we will never undo what we are seeing. We'll never eradicate racism. So in our partnership, we see ourselves with LPS truly helping all of the educators, first of all, see that the conveyor belt exists inside of schools. We are working alongside all of the educators, the leaders at the district level inside the schools to also turn and face in the opposite direction. Our work also is to fundamentally help and equip educators to not only turn in the opposite direction, but to sprint in the opposite direction. And we all know at a time when we can actually go into airports and be on conveyor belts, there's that little red button that's at the front of it, which stops the conveyor belt. Our work is to help equip educators, not just to hit the stop button, but to fundamentally dismantle the conveyor belt altogether on behalf of our students and on behalf of our families. I want to share with you a little bit of where this work all started. In January of 2019, I had the privilege of being able to connect with Dr. Tutwiler, Deb, and Kim. I think we were in Atlanta in something called the Equity by Design meeting, where superintendents and districts were coming together just to imagine, what does equity look like inside of school districts? We partnered up, we had conversation and began to dream about what this work could look like. And we started that work, engaging the school principals in Stonewood Tavern, which I've heard has unfortunately shuttered its doors since then. But in August of 2019, we started this work, engaged with the passionate, dedicated, and committed school leaders inside of Lynn Public Schools. And we were beginning planning conversations. About this time last year, I was sitting in Dr. T's office and we were having some conversation over some coffee, just envisioning what does year 2 look like. And we were talking about year 2 for school principals. And then the turmoil launched itself. We saw the death of George Floyd. We saw the deaths that continued on from that point. We saw the outrage. We saw the marches, the protests. We saw everything take place, and Dr. T, in his leadership role, understood that we needed to extend beyond the principles. And as a result, we began to launch in some of the important work of doing this learning, doing this equipping, doing this engaging in an asynchronous format. Oops, let me go to the next one here. In our work, we're touching on three buckets. One is professional learning for staff and faculty. That in the resolution itself, it's called professional development for all. The second bucket is around professional support for school leadership. I'm going to talk briefly about that. And then after Michael Molnar shares, you'll hear a little bit from some of the work we're also doing with schools in inclusivity. Also in that resolution that Dr. Tutwiler referenced, he talked about inclusivity panels, raising the volume of the voice of those who are involved with our schools, even beyond the teachers, listening to the students. We're going to talk about that as well. In terms of the professional learning, you may have seen this arrow. This is the work in its full scope. In the work that we're doing asynchronously, there are three modules that are in each of these sections of the arrow. Educators thus far, starting in January, have engaged with the foundation setting. We're looking forward to launch the second set of modules, which is entirely focused on teaching and learning. In the fall of this upcoming school year, we're going to be involved with and engaged with the learning around school discipline, culture, and climate. And then finally, in our last quarter of engagement, we're thinking about how do we ensure that we're not stepping into pitfalls or running into obstacles, but ensuring that we continue the work that we know is what best serves our students and families that are most marginalized. This is the asynchronous work that we're leading and supporting the educators in Lynn Public Schools. Just to give you a quick snapshot of some of the data, this was as of the beginning of this month on February the 8th. Like I mentioned, in the first quarter, there are three modules. We had 1,245 survey responses from teachers as a result of their learning in Module 1, 1,100 survey responses from teachers as a result of their completion of Module 2, and 590 as a result of their completion of Module 3. The idea is that they're completing their work in all of the first quarter, engaged with synchronous conversations, and what we were able to see in this learning was pretty significant in terms of what educators were reflecting on and imagining as a part of their practice as educators. Our quarter 2 is going to launch towards the end of March. And so the folks who had not completed just yet Module 3 still have time to get that done. Thus far, with all of those survey responses, we see that, let me switch back there, 81% of those teachers who responded agreed or strongly agreed to the statement, the module offered valuable learning that will enhance my professional practice. What I've learned and what I've heard in engaging with educators in Lynn is that this is not a conversation that's been common over the years. In fact, for many, this is brand new. For many, they have not considered what it means to be an anti-racist educator or how to engage with culturally proficient or trauma-informed practices. But that same population of educators in Lynn would say that their learning so far, over 81%, say that the learning that they've engaged with so far is valuable and will enhance their professional practice. For me, I believe is significant. Just a couple quotes from some of the survey responses. One colleague wrote, "This has been one of the most well done and thorough professional developments that I've ever sat through in my 18 years in LPS. I really appreciate that the district is working on providing high quality content and the fact that it's being delivered by experts. I think that too often it feels like we do things in order to check boxes and say that we have done them. But I really appreciate the way that this was done. As I went through this module, I had specific colleagues in mind and wonder if any of these contents resonated with them, given the way that I have seen them interact with certain students. Another quote, colleague put, "It is rare that I will walk away from a PD with thoughts about its impact as an individual, a mother, a white middle-aged woman, an educator, etc. The type of information presented and the way it was rolled out was effective. For some who are new to this work, I would surmise it was groundbreaking and jarring, but it was presented in a way that did not place blame or judgment on the participants. For those with experience with this type of work, it very much challenged and inspired us to engage and invest." Now, of course, I think, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm focusing on the quotes that were positive and people who felt that there was impact. But you'll notice, like I said, there were 81% of fact.
Bit of a delay as Matthew's frozen up.
I just sent him a quick message.
Okay. He may be trying to sign back on. We'll wait another minute or two.
He just said he's coming back in, so just be a second.
Thanks. As Member Nicholson said, this is where we could have the students' music interlude as a bridge.
Here he comes.
So what I was just sharing was probably the most profound and significant. Sorry about that.
Good to have you back. We're ready to have you jump back in, Matthew.
Okay, great. Please let me go ahead and share the screen and I'll wrap up. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I suppose that's one of the downfalls of engaging with technology. While we might be able to engage from Midwest to the East Coast, there will be glitches. Anyhow, I know I was just mentioning about how there are some colleagues who I know express some concern. We're listening to those voices and ensuring that our adjustments and tweaks that we make as we roll out the professional learning is going to be able to meet the needs of those even who are expressing concern. That's something that we take to heart. That's the reason why we had 6 surveys, even though I know people felt survey fatigue. We collect feedback, we listen to it, and we make the necessary adjustments. The last thing I'll mention here before we switch gears and hear from Michael Monar is that you also know that in the learning that we're doing, each quarter of learning has 6 hours of asynchronous learning activities, 2 hours of synchronous time. The synchronous time is actually being led by the school principals. And what we're doing as an organization is supporting and equipping the school principals to be able to lead these conversations with staff in a way that's meaningful, in a way that staff can feel heard, no matter what their perspective and views are with regard to this topic, and really just providing a facilitator guide to allow for principals, like I said, to lead sometimes these uncomfortable conversations as it relates to race and racism. In just a moment, you're going to hear also about the work that we're doing around the inclusivity of student voice in particular. But before we do, we're going to hear from Mr. Michael Molnar, just to get a grasp of, so what's the connection between the work that's been done throughout the course of the learning with staff and faculty and Lynn to the work that we're currently doing? So Michael, I got the slides. You just let me know when to shift.
All right, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Matthew, you can go to the next slide. So as Matthew said, this has been a timely collaboration, and Lynn, the English Learner Education Department, has been focused for the last 3 years on doing the work of equity for English learners. When Dr. Tutwiler first came on as superintendent, he made it one of his goals that we would focus in on English learners, so that he wanted to build the capacity at both the school and district levels to improve teaching and learning for English learners. So we took that task in the school year 2018-2019. Matthew, can you go to the next slide? And we started looking for the first focus area. The first year of the focus area, we began focusing in on academic discourse for English learners. How do they use academic language to get new information and build on that new information, that new learning, so that they could be successful in school? What is it that we as teachers needed to know and be able to do to really enhance that opportunity for the kids? Can you go to this next one? That led us taking feedback from schools and taking following the lead of the schools. We realized we needed to go deeper with academic language by focusing in on vocabulary. What are specific vocabulary strategies and approaches that would be helpful and useful for working with English learners? Matthew, could you go to the next one? Which brought us even further, which was we knew into year 3. Sorry.
I just ask if someone, make sure everyone is muted. We hear some coming through someone's call.
So by year 3, which is what we're currently in, we getting the information and the feedback from the schools. We realized that teachers were asking, it's good to have strategies, but we want to make sure that the strategies are matching the kids. The kids are not cookie cutter. They're coming in different sizes, different shapes. Their needs and their strengths are different. So about a year ago at this time, Rania and I started talking and reaching out to Dr. Tutwiler and the senior leadership, started talking about what it is that do for free, and began realizing that, yes, we can come up with a list of strategies that we can give out to people, but really what's going to make those strategies supportive and responsive for kids, for English learners, responsive to their strengths and their needs, was to make sure that the decision making behind using the strategies was informed. Decision making becomes informed by beliefs, and we knew that we needed to develop assets-based mindsets that were looking for the strengths and the resources that kids are already bringing with them as English learners. And in order to do that, we would first have to confront deficit-based thinking. Those smog clouds is the analogy we use, the smog clouds that interfere with us seeing the strengths and the resources that our kids are coming with us. So as we began this work, and realizing the powerful conversations that could happen, and preparing for this, that's when we got introduced to Matthew, and we realized that the district had different streams coming together, and we were able to partner starting in the summer so that we could have almost like a 1-2 punch. So in the fall, responsive supports for English learners, that training was going out over the summer and into the fall for the schools, and then it transitioned very nicely into the work that Matthew has been spearheading. So it's been a nice marriage of approaches for the last couple of years. And I'm done. Thank you, Matthew.
And so I know in my conversations leading up to this evening, there was either a pause point right here to either respond to any questions, or Dr. Tutwiler, you let me know if we transition right into the presentation from Judy.
Mayor, if it's okay, I think this would be a good pause point.
Yep, that's fine. And I see that at least Member Sadowite has a question, and maybe others. Member Sadowite?
Thank you. I just have a few things to ask. One specifically, Dr. Tutwiler, before I got on the committee in 2017, there was that sanctuary school resolution. And I know Matt was talking about, these particular movements, why they're important for the district. And it's important that we're not just checking off boxes. And I think that was the feedback from some of the educators. So in that resolution, there was supposed to be PD. And a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing sounds like it should have been applicable to that resolution, to be honest with you. Michael said it sounds like we should be meeting the kids where they are. It sounds like someone that's coming from a foreign country and might not have, the same educational opportunities there, and then they come here and we have to meet them where they are. A lot of the things just sounded like it would be applicable to what we and Maria Carrasco in the school committee at that point fought for. And I know that they got some pushback, and it sounds like this would have been good for 2017. When Matt was talking, all I could think about was the Zoom hearing that went viral with the professor yelling at the student that was hard of hearing. He lacked the compassion, and he was probably frustrated. But it just goes to show how important it is for this activity to take place, so teachers can be educated and have the professional development they need to be able to handle situations like that. If you haven't seen it, Dr. Tutwiler, it's definitely something that you should, and you're probably going to need a tissue because it's heart wrenching that someone could do such a thing. I agree that advancing obviously the needs of our students of color is extremely important. What I like to know is what team was, I heard about how we got to this particular point with Matt and you and the deputies, but what other people were part of this team? Only because, I wrote down this while Matt was talking, in order to be able to, turn this into something great, we need to make sure that it's built on a foundation where we're doing the things that we're preaching. That it's built on a foundation where we have people of color or EL educators a part of the team that's making these decisions and putting together these PDs. So I like to know who else is a part of the team as opposed to Matt and Michael Molnar. What other people of color or because they want to advance in the district. This would have been a great opportunity to have them a part of this, so the talent that we have. So when there are positions open, the people of color can also be brought forward as well. So those are my views of what we just heard, and if you can just give me some feedback, I'd appreciate it.
Gladly, and I'll invite Kim, Deb, Matthew, and Michael to jump in. What I'll just say quickly is the Safe and Supporting Schools, or Safe and Welcoming resolution from about 4 years ago absolutely melds well with this professional development that we're doing. At its core, there are pieces of that resolution that were really around protocol, right? How we work with law enforcement and how we're protecting the rights of our students and families. But there was another piece in there that was around trauma and response and cultural competence. That's at the core of the ELEPD that we've been doing over the past 3 years, and definitely at the core of the anti-racist work that we're doing with staff that began in January with the Hope and Healing. And then I'll say that I agree with you 100% that, any plan, any PD that's going to go district-wide should have lots of fingerprints on it, right? It should be embracing the voices, the thoughts, the opinions, the contributions of staff. And we actually did that. I don't know if Matthew wants to jump in and to work with the teams who are contributing and continue to give feedback on the modules.
Yeah, one thing I will mention is in terms of the equity imperative in our team, it's not just me. I have a team of people that I work with who are experienced in this, and this is their and my lifelong work in our communities for our people, and to ensure that we can advance this work beyond just small spots in Chicago and extend it beyond But in terms of in Lynn, one of the ways that the equity imperative, I think, distinguishes itself from other entities is that we don't come in with a prescribed set. This is what you need to do. It's a partnership. We listen and we engage. And that's another thing that for me, I would attribute back to the leadership of Dr. Tutwiler in convening a group of people, teachers. In fact, right now, as we speak, there are colleagues, teachers who are engaged with looking at and reviewing the material, offering feedback, sharing thoughts and ideas, saying, hey, this connects back to previous learning. There are teachers of color, teachers who are white, teachers from, that have been in Lynn for decades, teachers who are just starting in Lynn, all of whom are contributing their thoughts and ideas as we are in the design stages for Q2 set of modules in the same fashion that we engaged leading up to our January launch of Q1.
Can I add to that, Dr. Tutwiler? Many of these teachers are from the Lynn Teachers Union's social justice group. Every school, I believe, has representation on this team with the Teachers Union, and Sheila O'Neill has worked closely with Dr. Tutwiler, myself, and Kim to meet with her team to get their feedback, to include them, to hear their voices, and they've been a great help with this work.
Thank you. Member Nicholson?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. Very exciting work and exciting to see the implementation and the follow-up of these important concepts that we've been discussing and the follow through in the commitment. I also just want to thank everyone that has worked in this, but also the teachers for clearly showing that commitment to improvement to our students and to giving that feedback. It's great to hear that you're soliciting that, and it's really great to hear that they're willing to share. So I guess one of the question I had, it makes a lot of sense that you were able to team up and, like you said, saw those streams come together. I think that's good to reinforce the ideas, and also good, from an efficiency perspective. We do ask teachers, a lot of our teachers, and I think that is even more true this year in terms of what we're asking people to learn and adjust. And I think that's going to continue, particularly as we sort of rapidly change what operations look like and start to deal with some of the aftermath of the change that we've been making right now, and what the city has been suffering, to be frank, over the last year. And so was wondering, and there's a real equity lens to that, to dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic, and was wondering how that and if that is factoring into the plans coming into the next quarter, coming into the fall, how that equity lens on the impact of and the effect of the pandemic would be factored into this kind of to the future plans for this professional development.
Great question. So what I hear you asking, just to make sure that I'm clear, is number one, we ask a lot of teachers, and I say we. I'm a recovering chief education officer in the city of Chicago, so I know what that means when we talk about we, right? We ask a lot of teachers, especially now amidst the pandemic. But then I hear your question asking, and to what extent are we working to ensure that the learning is helping to equip teachers even in this pandemic, or hybrid, or fully remote? Am I capturing your question correctly?
Yeah, and like factoring in what we think are going to be adjustments that teachers will make as a result of the pandemic, because of the uneven impacts of the actual disease, the uneven impacts of the unemployment, the uneven impacts of the hunger, the uneven impacts of the mental health and social emotional health consequences. So that as we're going to ask teachers to help students catch up and address those problems, and there's going to be disparities in the way that happens.
Yeah, great question. So one thing I will say, even the quote from Dr. Tatum is from 1997. The work of anti-racism is not new. One of the powerful pieces of the learning is that it's applicable no matter what kind of teaching and learning is being involved. Even before COVID-19, there's work that could have been done. While there's COVID-19, work can still be done. The way that we engage in the learning is inviting for teachers to reflect. They have a workbook that they're utilizing, and as the learning is being presented and shared, they're invited to think about the ways that it's directly applicable to their practice. I'll give you one example for this upcoming quarter. We plan to use an example from an incident that took place of a student on a remote learning educational platform as a scenario for teachers to consider. How does the learning impact the way that they could engage a student through the educational learning platform in a way that does not create further distancing or does not exacerbate racism? So to your point about, you know, how is the learning being able to take into consideration the current context? That's how I would answer that. The extent to which that we're inviting or engaging teachers to think about the kind of load that will be required upon schools and school districts to make up for lost learning during this time or for the disproportionate impact on COVID-19, that's a bit more of a broader question, but it's even for those who are engaging with this learning, they have a framework through which to look at systemic inequality. That framework is applicable if you're a paraprofessional, if you're a teacher, if you're a school principal, if you're a district leader, to look at the disproportionate impact, particularly on those who are most marginalized, and craft systemic solutions. So the district officials can do that, thinking about how to respond and realize the fact that there has been disproportionate impact and think about solutions in that way. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? Member Castellanos?
I want to thank everyone involved in this process. Mr. Rodriguez, wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. You know, when we talk about the resolution to eradicate racism and what that means, it's really vital to recognize what we're asking and what we're looking for when we look for sustainable change. When you look at the anti-bias curriculum, when you look at cultural intelligence training, it's very raw. And how do we support our staff? When I look at the 81% that you brought up, there's a 19% who we don't know about, right? What exactly are we doing to structure a safe space to have these conversations? I've been involved in multiple trainings. I actually just had a culture responsive training and a another training just that was very, very intense, but the conversation was so pure. Because equity is imperative, but it's also very important to make sure that we have those type of affinity groups and spaces available to have these conversations, because this is where we're going to see the change. We want to look at sustainable change and to eradicate it forever. So what are some ways that we doing, right? I know I see that, you know, we have been ongoing, but we have to make adjustments. What are we doing in terms of just the implementation structure? And also, what are we doing to offer those safe spaces for these conversations? To protect, this is for our staff, going back to that. So what are we doing?
Dr. Tutwiler, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, I mean, all the questions are great, but that's a great question, Brian. And believe you me, I mean, I know from a statistical significance standpoint, you know, 81% is pretty darn good. But that does mean, as you point out, that there are some people who still have questions or might not be seeing the value or the needle might not be moving for those folks. And so, you know, you heard Matthew mention that there's a lot of surveys. We're asking for a lot of feedback. And I think it's through that process that we continue to mine for the right approach, for the right information to continue to push that number up. What I would say about, you know, creating safe spaces for having those tough conversations, you know, I agree with you. I mean, part of the strategy is obviously to make sure that building leaders are, you know, have a tool sack to sort of to use to facilitate these conversations, which can be challenging. And then also thinking about affinity spaces. And I'll tell you that this is actually something that came out of our partnership with the Social Justice Committee of the Teachers Union, and thinking about how do we support various groups of people in exploring this, really challenging topic in a way that they feel safe, in a way that they feel supported. And that's work that we're deeply engaged in right now.
Well, that's kind of what I was headed towards in terms of that affinity space and what that looks like, what a time frame. I don't want to say time frame. I know we have a lot going on, but you have so many different layers to this that we're pursuing. When we talk about equity, I just know my own personal experiences as a social worker for the state. We have LGBTQ, diversity, inclusion. We have so many different spaces where we can have those conversations tied into also informative leaders within our own culture, and we can, there's reform, there's tradition. I think there's so much creativity and talent that we could tap into our own staff and folks out there we're on the ground with these issues right alongside our students and the families that are impacted by that. As you mentioned, there's huge, we got retention, we have recruitment and retaining staff issues that not just us, but across the whole country. We're trying to figure this out, but I think Lynn is a very special place. I think our staff are very special. We've done the leadership. We've done a lot of work, and there's a lot of work to do. These are very big topics. I'm not looking for equity. I'm personally looking for liberation. That's just how I see it. So.
Thank you, Member Castellanos. Other questions, Member Capola?
As we get new teachers in or new staff in,
I think I know where she's going with, oh, sorry.
They would have this as they enter, through any of the Rosen, Mayor. I'm having a little trouble there.
Yeah, we missed you a little bit. Go ahead again. We missed your question, so if you go ahead, thank you. You're breaking up, Donna.
As we are hiring new staff, we couldn't have this whole thing, but we could have an abbreviator.
Okay, we can.
Is it again?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if, what would we do for new staff, new teachers coming in to incorporate this in some way, right off the bat, that it's available? Because, we're doing the staff now, but, we're always bringing in new people. We have a whole list at the end of our, agenda today with people who are new hires.
What I would say quickly is that, Matthew said it in jest at the beginning of the presentation that we're gonna fix this in about a year and a half. This is really foundational work that we're doing. We're taking a deep dive with staff this year, but this is not the end of it. And we've already had conversations with curriculum about how we onboard new staff and how we weave these important core concepts of anti-racism into the onboarding process, so that from jump, there's already a foundation being built around the lens we expect all staff to employ when working here.
Thank you, Member Ford.
Yeah, real quickly. I was on a group back in 1980 in the General Electric cultural diversity team. And I think the biggest thing to this whole movement is to build and grow. Don't allow it to go a year or two and then fade away. I think we should be looking for economic advantages for minority teachers to come in, maybe debt forgiveness, anything we can come up with. But the key is to maintain this. We've too many times we've done affirmative action, things have happened and they've gone away too quickly. And this is something that has to be sustainable. And I thought one of the best quotes that came out of the 1980s group was the young lady said that the simplest thing to racial equality is learning to embrace each other's cultural differences.
Thank you. Other questions from the members? So are we on to the next, Dr. Tutwiler? Thank you, Matthew and Michael. I know we're continuing on to the next piece, correct?
Yeah. And Deb, if you could help me with granting the co-host to whoever needs to share their screen for the next one. So, Matthew alluded to it in the previous presentation, the fact that this is really, the resolution called for two things. One was a mandatory district-wide professional learning experience. The other called for us to elevate student voice in our work to eradicate racism. And not just in general, in a very specific way. And that was through the development of student inclusive panels. If I'm not mistaken, this was actually an idea that came from a group of students in partnership with a teacher advisor. And again, something that, we take really seriously. Student voice is important. And we've worked to establish these student inclusivity panels, and we've had the opportunity, including today, to see this work happening. It's exciting, it's heartening, and I think you'll see the same. So I'm pleased to introduce to you from Marshall Middle School student Janelle, Ms. Qualters, and Mr. Willenbrock, Principal Molly Cohen, and Judith Rodriguez, also from the Equity Imperative.
Hello.
Welcome,
nice
Judy.
to see and meet everyone this evening. I'm happy to be here. My name is Judy Rodriguez with the Equity Imperative, and all I'm doing is warming up the mic for Miss Janelle. So consider this my mic is warming up. We're about to hear some really good student voice, and I'm just warming it up for her. So I'd like to share my screen. Let me make sure I got that. Boom. Can you all see my screen? Lynn School Committee Inclusivity Panel. Y'all with me? All right. This is the mic, and we're about to hear some student voice. But I want to warm it up by just sharing a little bit of context about what it means to have inclusivity work happen in the school and how we are approaching this work. And so I want to first thank you for your commitment to equitable opportunity for optimal achievement for all. And I know that these are not just words on your website, because there's an alignment with the actions throughout the schools that reflect these very core values that you represent. And so one of the points that we're driving home is that inclusivity panels is a voice opportunity for students. So I'm not going to be talking very much today. This is all about inclusion. And what do we mean by inclusion? We mean voice opportunity for students. That confronts what oftentimes happens with adolescents and young people in schools, is that as they increase in their development for autonomy and decision making, they meet environments where less and less of those opportunities are actually available. And so this opportunity for voice is not just like, hey, let's hear the students talk. This is a confronting of the developmental mismatch that oftentimes our young people are meeting in the school settings where they are. It increases the sense of belonging, because not you feel like you belong when what you got to say actually makes an impact in your surrounding. And so it increases the sense of not just belonging, but of mattering. I matter because what I say matters, because what I say is actually shaping my environment. And so that's what inclusion and inclusivity work is about. And I just want to echo that whereas inclusiveness is one of the core values of Lynn Public Schools, we are here to listen to one of the young people leading this work in the Thurgood Marshall School. And her name is Janelle Janelle Aceituno. And so before I introduce her, I just want to share that she is one of the inclusivity leaders, all of the students that I'll share more context about later, that are leading this work. And I want you to hear first from them, from students and mentors and the principal of the school and the work and how it's being manifested in their school. And then I'll come back and circle back and share the context across the district. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
All right. Janelle, mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. You ready? Yeah, there you go. Hold on, Janelle. I got some for you.
Oh no, she's bringing out the stuffed animals.
There it is. We're here for you, girl. We're here to hear you out.
Thank you so much. I got a problem though. I cannot see your screen.
Oh, can you see that? Can you see your name now?
No, I can't see like anybody. I can't even see my own picture.
Oh, okay.
We can see and hear you.
Oh, but I can't see anything. It's just like blank.
Janelle, I could help you through this. And so if you can just share with us a little bit about yourself and why you joined the inclusivity panel at your school.
My name is Janelle. I am a 6th grader. I have never stepped in a foot in school because I'm a 6th grader, so this is my first time, so we're doing it online. But, you know, after I joined Inclusivity Leaders, I really feel like I'm a part of it. I love being in this club. It is so much fun, and we focus a lot on important topics like racism, and we're working on it a lot, and I think we can actually solve the problem.
Yes. Janelle, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else you want to share about why, what the work that you've been doing so far, even what happened this week, our inclusivity panel?
Yes. So we were working on 2 words. They have the same, they're doing the same thing, but one is doing more effort than the other. And we got non-racist and anti-racist. Those 2 words, they both are against racism, but one is doing actually something and the other one's just sitting around. Non-racist means that they're not with racism, but they're also not doing anything much. But anti-racist is a lot like Martin Luther King Jr. He worked a lot, he was not with racism, and he did something to make his voice get heard, like we are going to do today.
Now you could drop the mic. Mic drop. Janelle, thank you so much for sharing your voice with us this evening. I know that this was challenging for you, but I appreciate you standing up, sharing your voice, letting us hear you out this evening. And so we're going to hear from some of your advisors right now. Is that okay?
Go for it.
All right.
Thank you, Janelle.
Nice job, Janelle. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Ms. Qualters, and I teach at Thurgood Marshall, and I'm one of the inclusivity mentors. I just first wanted to take an opportunity. It's really exciting to be here tonight to be able to share some of the amazing work that these students are doing and just say thank you to the school committee for giving us this opportunity to do this. Just in my personal practice, I always have thought that student voice is so vital and have always tried to foster that in having my students be heard. With this group in particular, they have been amazing. We meet once a week. They've come, they have been vulnerable, they've been honest with us. We have started, just like Dr. Tutwiler said, like the foundation of researching our project that we're trying to be able to support. So they've had honest conversations. We've shared personal experiences with racism, anti-racism. And I'm just really excited for them to be able to be part of this and see where this goes. So yeah, it's just really exciting. And it was really great to come here to be able to share some of this and hear Janelle and hear from Equity Imperative. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. We want to hear also from the other advisor in the group, Mr. Brad.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to be with you all today, thinking so deeply and assertively about another pandemic in our nation, racism. And I applaud our effort as a city to eradicate racism. And even more, I applaud the students in their first experience really with exploring anti-racism and really coming up with genuine and heartfelt initiatives that I think are going to be going places, maybe not only this year, but in the future. We've really worked hard these first few weeks to make sure that we can communicate as a group. And we talked about affinity groups earlier for staff, which is very important, but we've become an affinity group ourselves, as the community who knew that we could do this virtually? I don't think it's ever been done before, and we are doing it with flying colors. Today we had our second amazing inclusivity panel. And, Janelle did a great job the first time, being the MC for our first few months ago. This time we had another student named Genesis who was just an amazing voice talking about what we've been doing in class, or doing in club. And I think it's really a model for, this type of engagement between student and or mentor and student is a model for what we could be doing in the classroom with having, the conversations that we're having and having it be really genuinely student-led. That's just a really powerful feeling, and it's a mutual experience because we're certainly introducing them to concepts and ideas that they're thinking about and grappling with, but certainly they're sharing ideas and their passions which are inspiring me, and I've come up with this coined term now, I guess, where they're sharing their glow, and as their mentor I am growing. So when they glow, we grow, for sure.
Yeah, when they glow, we grow. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Willenbrock.
I'll drop my mic now.
And so we want to hear from the principal leading Thurgood Marshall and her experience leading this work there, so that you get the full picture of how this is playing out at each school.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the school committee for this resolution on anti-racism. When, as soon as I heard of it in June, I immediately reached out to people on my staff and said, I am thrilled to do this type of work. And I'm just here to attest to the courageous conversations that our staff is having, that principals are having, that the district is having. Like Brian said earlier, we're on the ground alongside our students in this work. This work is a humbling experience where the playing field is leveled. We may be in different places. We may be on a continuum and in different places on that continuum, but there is never a moment that you cannot learn from one another. I've been listening to the concerns and the questions that the school committee asked, and they are spot on for this work. It really makes me feel empowered and excited and supported, because the questions that you ask, the dilemmas that we face when we're doing anti-racism work are real, right? The struggle is real. And I guess in answer to the question of why or how or what steps or what action steps do you take, I guess I would slow it back down to how the Equity Imperative has designed this program, and that's to just start with knowing your authentic self. Bring your identity to the work, learn your vulnerability, and as you do that, your lens will open. And we feel like a rush because it is a pandemic. Racism is a pandemic, and we want to solve it. But it's way more complicated than that. And so, what Mr. Ford said about, the work that was done in the 80s, it brings back the specific action steps that our students have decided to take. Not yet exactly the action plan, but some steps. So, Mr. Ford talked about knowing one another, knowing your culture, and that can be sustainable. And so these are some of the action steps that our inclusivity panel came up with. Be mindful of what you say. Change the habits and ways of how you think. Advocate for yourself and to support one another. Change how we treat one another. And as we do that, in our relationship to one another, we learn about ourselves. And so the glowing and the growing, it's symbiotic, right? And so it builds community. And I feel very much like part of a community. And so, yes, affinity groups are important, and we do need to establish more in our district. But we are doing the work in our schools, and I have to thank the Equity Imperative, the school committee, and district leadership for allowing the building principals to work within the cultures that we have in our schools. This is not a prescribed solution when you work with anti-racism. It's very personal and systemic at the same time. There are paradoxes and dichotomies that happen in racism. And until we truly get honest and vulnerable and authentic, we really can't pull those pieces apart. So I just want to finish by saying the partnerships that we have established here tonight, the relationships in the Lynn Public Schools and in the city of Lynn. I am a proud employee of the city of Lynn. I think it's a magical place. We have a lot of work to do. We are sort of at ground zero, but that's okay. It's more the enthusiasm, the thirst that the staff and the students and the families have shown us. They are hungry and ready to do this work. So I thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to be part of the program. So again, like Brian said, we are on the ground alongside each other and our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal Cohen. So you got a picture of how this is playing out at Thurgood Marshall School. And you'll see that how the program is structured more or less, right? But I want to show you a little bit more about how this has been designed so you get a full picture of how it's functioning in the district with the middle and secondary schools. And so what you've seen in just what Janelle or Mr. Willenbrock or Ms. Coulters and Ms. Cohen shared is what we're calling a micro ecosystem of critical hope. I'm able to literally experience these even this afternoon as we were having conversations in the second quarter inclusivity panels this afternoon. I can see the evidence that there is within this inclusivity panel groups, this sense of community, trust, and belonging that's opening up the doors for trust and just vulnerability, just sharing about tough issues that are difficult to talk about, that we don't often have spaces, and not even our students have opportunities to share these things. This is happening in the systems of critical hope that the mentors are creating in the school, and it's happening online, yo. That to me is what I mean. We've done this work in person in the schools here in Chicago, but I'm seeing it happen online, and it's absolutely fascinating. So here is YPAR stands for Youth Participatory Action Research. This is the method that we're using to get the students in the inclusivity panels to identify a problem, name the problem, research the problem, and be able to make recommendations for solution, and not just make recommendations, but be a part of the actionable steps to make those changes happen in their environments. This is how we approach our future with hope. It's not just telling the students, we're going to raise the volume on your voice. Thank you for telling us how you feel. But we're saying, we're going to raise the volume on your voice. Let's study this together. Let's learn together. Lead us through this process so we can understand how to make the change from your perspective, the people that are most affected by every decision we make. And so that's what YPAR means, and we'll get into exactly how it happens in Lynn. So like I said, YPAR, I'm going to say YPAR from now on, because youth participatory action research is a long time and it kind of a tongue twister for me. You know, the bilingual person in me just like flips that. So YPAR happens by each school creating a group, a club, right? And then what happens is that I want to share with you what has happened since November. Y'all won't believe this, but it's a lot been going on since November. We not only identified mentors that are helping to lead this work with the students, 2 mentors per school. But we've also identified the students and recruited the students to participate in this. There are a total of 98 students. You'll see a little bit more about that later. And then not only that, but we've also gathered, each school has a gathering of the stakeholders within each school community that joins in, and it's actually the listening ears at every inclusivity panel. The adults in the building are now listening to the students. Ain't that cool, y'all? And so we're every quarter, wherever we are at in the process of research, either selecting your issue, designing research methodology and data collection, or reporting back steps to change, regardless of where they're at, each quarter, the inclusivity panel is presenting to the group of stakeholders where we're at. And all of this happens and is encompassed by this huge circle that you see called relationships. Without that work, the groundwork of building trust and community and collaboration face to face and eye to eye with the students, none of this works, because the relationships is what gives us the opportunity to hear their student voice, and to not just hear it, but be empathetic towards it, and not just be empathetic towards it, but pave the way for the students to continue to lead us in humility, like Ms. Cohen was saying. And so that's what you'll see every quarter. So with this past quarter, we just identified, most of the schools are now identifying their issue. They're rounding about their issue, and they're doing that through critical dialogue, consensus building, and they're having these opportunities to practice those skills as they go. The relationships that we're talking about, the relationship framework that we're using, it's called Developmental Relationship Framework, developed by the good folks at Search Institute up in Minnesota. These folks know relationships well. They've broken down this framework in a way that's tangible, that we can tell our students, that we can be warm, that we can expect the best from our students, that we can empower them, that we can respect them, include them, collaborate, and let them lead and expand the possibilities. So this is the relationship framework that we're using to frame the dialogue with mentors and the students to say, hey, focus on the relationships. Get to know the students, get to know their sparks, what makes them go, what makes them stop. Let's open up and make sure that they understand that you are expressing care, that you're challenging growth, that you're providing support, and more importantly, sharing power. Something we struggle with as adults, to share power with youth. We may not trust, we may not know, we have a fear of the unknown, but our young people are ready. They are the experts of their experience, and they know what they need to succeed if we could just listen and share power with them. So this is where we're at right now. We're at about 100 students across the secondary schools doing this inclusivity work. And like I said, each school has identified 2 mentors. and so grateful for Ms. Ruggiero's leadership and helping us and holding my hand through this process. Ms. Ruggiero, you rock. And so I'm thankful for your support in this process and participating in all the panels, and just being able to be a part of this work has helped us and kept me encouraged along the way. The students are doing this work in the schools, and you should know that this has all been happening since November. This is absolutely amazing that at this point, even in conversations today, you could hear the students saying, I just want to be a part of change in the school. I know we've had painful experiences. I've personally experienced racist interactions in school and in the community, but I feel hopeful now that I'm in this group, that we can be a part of change. I want to bring this change out into the community. Yo, the students are talking about not just change in the school, they're talking about change in the community. And this is the second quarter of our panels. Anyway, I get too excited about this. Y'all don't even know. If you can tell, I'm excited about this. And so this is where we're at right now. The students are selecting an issue that they're going to focus their research on and develop research methodology. And this is all going to be led by students in partnership with the mentors and our support and the stakeholder community to help the students conduct the research, to develop their research methodology, conduct the research, and be able to report back at every quarterly panel. What's really interesting about this process is that we're hearing so much rich dialogue happening amongst the students. It's really rich conversations and community critical dialogue that's happening. And we're taking our time to make sure that every student owns the issue that that they decide to focus on. There's so much to do, and we're asking in our conversations, let's narrow it down to a particular chunk of that issue that we could study it and do something about it right away. And so just this past month, we had a district-wide gathering, and I ran a chat cloud of all the words that were happening as we were having a gathering, all the words that the students were typing in the chat. We did an activity called the Waterfall Chat. And this is all the words that the students were sharing. And it's in the form of a mic. I wanted to bring this mic and keep the mic open for the students, because I'm hearing that there's beauty in the diversity of our languages, that if we speak our truth and we can hear each other out, that we can hear each other's voices. The amount of empathy and critical dialogue that we are seeing is out this world. But these are the words that the students are speaking. Notice the power of the words that they're using. We can't be afraid of sharing the mic with students. We can't be afraid of sharing power with students for fear of the unknown. What can happen? This is what can happen. It's absolutely beautiful that students can take leadership and own issues in their school and be a part of transforming their school climate and school culture. And so that's where we are at with the work. I want to open it up to any questions that anyone may have. I don't know if there was, can I stop my sharing now? Let me stop my sharing.
That would help.
It's a nice mic, but I'm going to stop my sharing.
That would help. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. And I see member Satterwhite has a question. And then member Castellanos.
Thank you for that presentation. Thanks for all of you that spoke, especially the student. I'm a product of Lynn Public Schools, and I've been it, and I've been very honest about my experiences that I've had in Lynn Public Schools. I speak openly about it, and I think it's important. It's not a secret that in high school, I almost dropped out of school because of my interactions with the vice principal, who would not listen to my voice and accuse me of stealing something from her office. And I felt as though it was just shut up and get out. And that's not what students need to hear. At that point, I was homeless. There were things in the background that if the VP went about it a different way, it could have turned into a different thing. But I was very close to dropping out. So hearing things like this and what you guys are doing is amazing, and I think that it's going to really save a lot of students that are on that point of break-in because it's very important. And I always say this, but you said it as well. But the school morale changes, and the thing that should remain constant is the relationship and the respect between the administration, the teachers, and the students, and that's extremely vital. And I like the fact that the point here is that we're giving the students voices, and that those voices are going to lead to responses, either a learning experience or change or something like that. And I think that that's key in this district, and it's very, very important for that to happen. I just have a couple quick questions about the mentors. What type of training are these mentors getting before jumping into these things? And are we also including any social emotional component to it to make sure that these kids are also receiving the support on the other ends if they are dealing with any issues?
That's a really good question. And thank you first for sharing your story as a student at Lynn. I'm familiar with that myself, those experiences in my own personal educational experience here in Chicago, but also in our work with students directly, over 10 years of working with students as a mentor and dean of students, and listening, right? Being able to provide in incidents like the one that you experienced, that no, we must listen to the story of the student. We must listen to what the student's voice is saying and honor that and due process for the student. And I'm so glad you didn't drop out. I'm glad that you had the resilience in you to continue. And I'm glad that you're still at this state of the game, still involved in making sure that that's not something that's happening to other students. That's what's up. And I just want to answer your question to say, like, the trainings that we're developing or the professional learning sessions that we're developing are, like I said, aligned with the Search Institute Developmental Relationship Framework. And we're constantly revisiting that at every session. So every quarter that we are, having the inclusivity panels, it begins with professional learning sessions for the mentors, not just on the how-to of youth participatory action research, but the focus is the relationships. If anything, it's been solely the relationships so far, because we understand the importance of that. Now, I've seen even in today's inclusivity panels and yesterday's panels that we had, there were students being vulnerable saying, I'm struggling with depression. Mental health is an issue. Where can I talk about that? But there was a community of stakeholders and teachers that were listening to that young person share and be vulnerable like that and embrace that young person and have a space. Now, I heard, I speaking with the mentors after, the mentor said that student has never said anything in any of our meetings. The fact that he felt safe enough to say that here online with here, to me, is an indication of the kind of space of micro ecosystems of critical hope that students are like feeling welcomed and embraced in and vulnerable enough to share. But to answer your question, in every quarter, we're providing professional learning sessions, and throughout each quarter, one-on-one school check-ins with each mentor, team, and the students to be able to make sure that they're feeling supported as mentors and equipped with the kind of skill set to support the students doing this work.
Thank you.
Member Castellanos, then Member Gately, and then Member.
So thank you so much for that presentation, Judy, Molly, Megan, all the folks involved. Janelle, you done a fabulous job off the cuff, much better than I could ever do, to be honest. I love the quote, I think a small person can make a huge difference. You sure made a huge difference in my life tonight. For a living, I advocate for our most vulnerable children in the Commonwealth. They get their voice taken a lot of the time, but I deal with really critical situations, and to empower folks, to empower students, to empower the voiceless has been something that I've loved every day of my life for. I come, like Attorney Satterwhite said, I share that same experience of just coming from nothing, being a first generation low income Latino. For me, hope was not really something that I saw in high school, and I didn't get my student voice until I got to college. And that's when I realized my vulnerabilities that I've learned to embrace. This is something that I see being vital and so crucial for our next generation of students and students to come. Student-based mentorship and leadership was something that right off the bat, Judy, when you started talking, I think about the vulnerabilities that our students are now getting put forth. Those are our same alumni down the road that say, hey, this is how we did it. This is how you can, and this is how you can be where you want to be down the road and take those barriers and obstacles and plow right through them. And it sounds like we have a village of support from the teachers to the staff to the district leadership. Truly grateful to even be partake in this this experience. It's such good vital work. I don't want to get too emotional. See, I told you I could get Judy. Me too.
I feel you, bro.
Give a quick. When they glow, they grow. The whole team is making. They just dropped this mic. This quote to the Knights.
Drop the mic.
But student voice is very crucial. I learned it when I was with the Teachers Union a few years ago, and they talked about student voice to really. And I think it's a benefit for everybody. I think it's a benefit for the staff, for the students, because you really get to learn about the individual versus just this one size fits all. Everyone's an individual, and I think the more we pursue these type of initiatives, the more better our future will look, especially when we look to create more hope for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your support of this work. It's evident throughout the leadership of the Lynn School Committee. And that's how that alignment is what builds unity in the school communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gately, and then Member Nicholson.
I'd like to piggyback off of Attorney Satterwhite, because I worked at the high school that he went to, and when that strict code was there and there was no tolerance for anything. And I have to share this because it was so powerful to me. There was this young man, and he sat in the room across from my room, my biology class. And this teacher was new, and she would call me and say, look at him, he doesn't do anything. He's just sitting there, he's sleeping, he doesn't listen, he doesn't do this. And I don't have that relationship with him like I would my students in my class, so I don't know. So then somehow the guidance counselors put him in the same teacher's classroom the next year. And then she was saying the same thing to me about this particular student. And I'll call him Jose, okay? So then I guess he got tested and evaluated and everything. And come to find out, he couldn't speak English, not one word. So he didn't understand one thing she was saying. And if she had just taken that time to put out a little olive branch and said, can you even speak English? If she had just done that. But I saw him this senior year, and this is how bad the climate was in that building, Michael. His senior year, he was up looking for his inclusion teacher, his ELL teacher. And he came up the stairs, and that same teacher, just so prejudiced, so, what are you doing up here? Get out of here. You just go back downstairs. Really mean to this boy. And you saw him, and then she drags him downstairs. He ends up not being able to cross the stage for graduation, and he earned it. And my heart broke. But I want to tell you about this young man. When I was moving my boxes, because I was leaving that building and going to another one, He was the only one that helped me carry my boxes to my car. He said, thank you, miss. He had a voice, but very small, but because of this ELL teacher at that school. So I'm really happy to see this program, and I'm glad that children are getting their voice, because they should be able to speak up, at least to say, I can't speak English. I don't understand a word of what you're saying. Somehow, you know what I mean? It was so sad. It was like one of the saddest experiences I had teaching. So thank you. I love this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your encouraging words.
Thank you. Next, Member Nicholson has a question.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Really incredible, really so inspiring. Janelle, that was beautiful, and thank you for sharing. I'm just so in awe of the wisdom you share with us tonight, and so excited to be able to hear it. And thank you to the rest of the team as well. It's really inspiring to hear this work. It's inspiring because it's something we had talked about last summer and sort of thought about, and it's certainly very heartening to see it implemented and to see it implemented so well. And one of the other reasons I think it's inspiring, and as Dr. Tutwiler pointed out, he's exactly right that this is a particular recommendation that came to us from a group of students that organized last spring, and I hope that they are inspired by the fact that their work, that their leadership, that their organizing, that their advocacy has led to something that I think is truly special, and it has certainly inspired me. The question I wanted to ask is, this is very, very powerful, very important, and I think these are really great skills that students are sharpening, developing. They're bringing a lot to the conversations, and I'm sure they're also growing as well in the opportunities they have. And one of the things that I was really encouraged by was that you mentioned that they have ideas to not just improve their school, but to go out in the community and improve. And I think that is hopefully going to be a great another great effect of this. And I think one way to encourage that my question is there ways for us to communicate to the community what the growth that our students are exhibiting and what they're achieving in these conversations? And I ask, and sort of in part inspired by what we've done with the seal of biliteracy, to be able to understand that a lot of times people who are external to our community aren't able to always appreciate the strengths that all our students have based on a traditional transcript and set of test scores, right? And you wouldn't necessarily be able to pick up on the amazing leadership experience that these because it's not just the panel, right? There's this whole community and process. And is there a way for us to because part of the value for students is there's obviously inherent value in having your voice heard and having your voice matter and being now an educational community that's been improved by your leadership. But is there other sort of ways to recognize the service that they're providing that might be of value as they move forward?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. It's something that we're also pivoting with as we develop this throughout the year. In fact, just this very week, meeting with the different principals to determine service learning opportunities, additional student incentives that can help keep the students engaged and involved, but not just as like an external motivator, but as a validation of their time, their expertise, and their effort towards this work. So there is at every school different ways to honor that investment that the students are bringing into the school with their research and their investment in this project. either through service learning, different kinds of incentives. So each school is doing that. But also just to say that for the greater community to know what's happening in each of these inclusivity panels, I know that there will be an opportunity later in the year for the students to come back here to the Lynn School Committee and hopefully present their research, their findings back to you. And then also at every school level, there's the stakeholders. So anyone can be invited at the community level, at the school level, to be a part of that stakeholder community. So there's multiple opportunities throughout the design of this program where people in the community and in the school can find out about this effort, support it, and be a part of supporting the students.
I just want to tag on to that, if you don't mind. Judy and I had a conversation this week about, and this will be down the road, but the future of it, right? And it's been so successful in this short period of time that we don't want to lose it down the road. And so we've had conversations about how do we provide like lead mentors who help new mentors who might take the role in a school and help them. I mean, Judy and Matthew are not going to be with us forever. And so we need to build our own capacity in our district to continue this legacy, as I would call it. That and opportunities in the summer for our students to do some kind of internship, a paid internship where they're working in the summer in the community, doing community service through the work that they're doing in the schools. It's down the road. We need to have conversations about it, but Judy and I are already been churning our brains on how do we continue this down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm so thankful for your leadership, Ms. Ruggiero, and your support of this work. It's evident. Thank you.
Is it member Satterwhite, then member Castellanos?
Just to follow up, one of the things that we talk about is the importance of having community schools because every community is very different. And I like how you, Judy, were talking about how the community and the shareholders will be able to discuss the needs of that particular area because our city's big, 120,000, not as big as Chicago, but every community really is different. If you went to, I can name 3 different elementary schools, and you'll be like, wait, we're in the same city? Like it's that different. So what I want to know, and I guess it's either going to be a Deb or a Dr. Tutwiler question is, what does the district hope to do or to track the data or information that we're getting from our students in our schools, and what are we going to do with it? It's important. I think that this is what we pay a lot of money to experts to tell us what we should do to improve this or improve that. If we have a good learning environment for our students, they're going to come and they're going to want to learn. Okay, so that's that voice part. That's that component part. We heard the first part, which was the professional development for our teachers and the equity part and racism in the first presentation. Now we're talking more so about the student body and having their voice matter. So I want to know where does the district come in tracking the data, and then where does it then get presented to the community? Is it going to be in a town hall setting where you do one quarterly or something like that? Is it going to be in addition to that? Could it be in the communities like Judy had said? Because again, every community has their own needs, and we've seen that. So that's what I'd like to have some feedback on that. I don't want to just get the information and then sit on it because it does us no good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll take that one. And it's the answer's short, but hopefully in your view substantive. What do we plan to do with the information and the suggestions, the feedback that this process yields? The simple answer is to act on it. This is a genuine process that we've clearly, in partnership with our incredible students, their teacher advisors, building leaders are putting a lot of time and energy into. This is a genuine effort that we intend to, the expectation it'll yield information that we can use to improve their experience. I mean, I'm thrilled, as Jared went back to and mentioned, that, we've channeled a student idea into a school committee resolution, into an implementation of an actual improvement effort being led by students. We're duty bound to act on those recommendations, on those suggestions, and on that feedback. Now, I think it's too early to say exactly what that's going to look like. But what I'm telling you right now, or what I'm conveying to you, is a sincere commitment to act on what we learn.
Thank you. Member Castellanos, you had a question?
Yeah, so I actually want to make that, so Dr. Tutwiler, I want to appreciate your commitment to student voice. This isn't the first time that I have had the opportunity to witness you take the actions. I know College Prudential, he came in with a civics idea. I remember getting a letter in the mail, and I remember there was a big, like a dictionary sized letter, and it had this young man put together a wonderful letter. I remember everyone, all my colleagues and everyone, we were all supportive of it. Janelle, too, just any type of student engagement or idea for me personally never goes unmarked. I love to work with students. An example was when I believe it was another civics class that mentioned the need for social workers, and they put the research out. And I remember getting this letter and then sharing the letter at a school committee meeting. And lo and behold, we have more social workers at each school. We're pushing forward SEL initiatives. We're investing in trauma-informed practices. And that's something that Dr. Tutwiler, I've always appreciated your leadership on that, and the district involved with that, and the deputies and principals and especially the teachers who are emotionally and intentionally invested. See, that's the key. I can see the intentionality in a lot of the work that happens. This PD, what we're talking about, I actually sent Dr. Tutwiler a message. It was from a social worker who really appreciated the Hope and Healing PD and really found so much value in it, and so rich of just authentic allyship, as Principal Cohen mentioned, just that authentic, how to learn to get to that point. And it's wonderful. And Mike, sorry, I can see I told you I keep ranting. I'm sorry. My little question is, in terms of just, I know funding wise, we're working on, we have some things that we're going to be waiting on federal wise. What grant opportunity, because we're investing in this type of initiative, there's certain grant opportunities that opens us up for eligibility, especially with the data that Michael mentioned, that's going to open up some doors for us for some sustainable opportunities for financing. So are we planning that yet? Or are we looking down the road? Are we planning to have these conversations to see what's out there? Because there's going to be new, I know we do have a grant writer and a team that's working on it. They work very diligently on just getting these type of funding mechanisms. But for this particular initiative, are we looking?
I'll speak to that really quickly. I mean, we're always looking, and in the beginning of Matthew's presentation, he mentioned how we came together. It was actually in Dallas a few years ago through an opportunity provided by the Schusterman Foundation. The Schusterman Foundation funded our equity work with the district leadership last year. The Schusterman Foundation is also funding the Hope and Healing and the Student Inclusive panels this year. We've got thankfully a really good relationship with the Schusterman Foundation, which is a national and fairly renowned, well, I shouldn't say fairly, they're giving us a lot of money, very renowned organization. we've been very, very thankful for their generosity, and it seems to keep coming. And that doesn't mean that we're not looking for other opportunities, but I think, and folks know that I'm modest, but I think they like what we're doing. And I don't ask them, they offer. And so we're very lucky, and we're going to continue to reap that benefit and bring it to bear on important work in the district.
That's because I think Member Ford said it earlier about just, we want to grow. We don't want to just let this die down. So I think part of my responsibility as elected officials to make sure that when something good comes in like this, that we build and plan sustainable funding mechanisms to support these type of initiatives. So appreciate that, Dr. Tawala.
Thank you, Dr. Tawala. And I think there's the next section. I think we're ready for the next section, blended instruction. Again, as we go into that, I want to thank everyone that was on the panel on the update, Janelle, and then the whole team. Great work. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Really exciting. Keep it up, Janelle.
Thank you all so much. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Nice job, Janelle. So, Mayor, just by way of very, very brief introduction, the last presentation is on blended instruction. And the way I would introduce this is by saying, one phrase that has been very common over the course of the past year is, I don't know, right? There's been so much uncertainty, so much change. And, with each passing week, something different seems to come into our lives that, causes a change or a shift. But there are a couple of things that we do know. And one of them is the fact that I think one member said a few meetings ago, like, there's no such thing as normal, right? There's no such thing as going back to normal. When we're back, it'll be different. And that is very true. That is something I think that we could all, sort of agree with and embrace. And one of the things that we know will be part of our students' educational experience is technology going forward. That was one of the, dare I say, COVID blessings, the fact that we needed to purchase technology and platforms to effectively meet student needs in a remote environment. But as we look ahead, we really want to begin to think about a really thoughtful integration of instruction in the virtual world, along with traditional in-person learning. And that is, appropriately called blended learning. And so we wanted to acquaint you with at a high level what that is, as really a projection of where the direction we think the district is going in terms of instruction. With that, I will turn it over to Michael for that presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just get my screens acclimated here. So, as Dr. Tutwiler said, my name is Michael Molnar. I work with the ELE department. Can you see this? Yeah. And I can't see any of you, so I hope somebody says yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So in this presentation, we're going to look at our vision for blended learning in the Lynn Public Schools, and we're going to discuss what prompted us to move in this direction, what we already know and what we can use as foundation for that, and then also what's new and what's unfamiliar to us. Now, you've already received a recorded version of this presentation that goes into a lot more detail than what's going to be presented tonight, but you can go back to that if you want more information. So in the spring of 2020, a year ago, we realized that as a district, we needed to rethink teaching and learning. As we began looking around to see what others had landed on, we learned about an organization called the Modern Classroom Project. You have a link to the original video that we came across in your notes for tonight. As we watched that video, we heard teachers talking about having more options in how they interacted with students. And what stood out to us were two broad categories: student agency That is, students having more control and more say over their learning, and flexibility, the flexibility of time and pacing. What made this model interesting to us was not only its roots in blended learning, but also those additional pieces that the learning is self-paced and it's structured around mastery. We knew that as we began to construct our vision for moving forward, that we wanted to strategically weave these three elements together. So first, we needed to define blended learning. We see this as active student learning through a strategic combination of face-to-face instruction and online learning. And at the core of blended learning are active students. They are not passive learners, but rather they're students who are meaningfully engaged in their learning. We appreciated the flexibility that this model could be used when learning is 100% in person, and can be shifted at a moment's notice to when learning has to become 100% remote, or it could be anywhere in between the two. So as we began to reimagine teaching and learning in this model, we looked for what was familiar to us. What does not change for us as educators and as learners? And we landed on three questions that guide our thinking and our planning, regardless of where that teaching and learning is happening. That first question is, how will students access and acquire new concepts and new skills? And this requires us as teachers to think through what the resources will be, what the examples will be, what the format will be for how we're presenting out these concepts and these skills to students. The second question is, how will students deepen their learning through practice and through application? What activities will they engage in? What will they explore? What will they do? And then finally, how will students demonstrate mastery of the new concepts and skills? What will they do that's going to showcase their learning? So as teachers, we use these questions to guide our thinking when we're planning in-person learning. But the same questions apply to our planning for remote learning. In blended learning, I now have some new options when asking these questions. Perhaps students access and acquire this new learning from a screencast or a video recording that I've created myself. Instead of me lecturing in real time, students have access to a recording that they can pause, rewind, and review. In blended learning, when students practice and apply new learning, I now have options to design both synchronous and asynchronous experiences. So for synchronous learning, when students are engaged in the same task at the same time, we might use a Zoom meeting with breakout rooms built into the lesson. This way, students can engage in real-time discussions. But there are also asynchronous options, when students can be engaged in the same learning, but at different times. For example, students might participate in an online discussion board. Students work together to practice and apply this new learning, but just not at the same time and not in the same place. And then finally, when students demonstrate their mastery of their new learning, there are a range of tools that teachers can use. Perhaps we're using physical whiteboards for students to record their answers and then flash them in their Zoom screen. Or we might incorporate any number of virtual whiteboard apps to accomplish the same goal using technology. The point is, the options we have for implementation will be different, but the thinking is the same. So for us, the power behind blended learning is in these additional elements: a self-paced structure and mastery learning. When we develop blended learning units of study that are designed to be self-paced, we're giving more ownership to students. They continue to both work independently and collaboratively, but they also have the option to revisit and review resources as needed. If a student needs to slow things down or even to speed things up, those options are built into the learning experience because it's self-paced. In addition to that, the units of study are designed around mastery learning. Students don't move from one learning experience to the next one just because it's time to move on. Rather, they progress from one learning experience to the next when they've mastered the concepts or skills of that lesson. If it takes one student a little longer or a few more interactions with the content, then that's built into the process. So let's look at how blended learning would be designed and organized to accomplish this. The planning begins with the final assessment. That's the end of the unit project or the task that's going to allow students to demonstrate their learning from the whole unit. And this is a non-negotiable in terms of a deadline. From there, we begin to plan out those activities that are must-dos. Must-dos are a progression of lessons that everyone is required to go through to go from point A to point B. But as we look at this progression, we begin to identify some strategic stopping points for something that's called a should-do. These allow students to extend their learning from the must-dos. So students do not need a should-do in order to master the content. However, when a student is on target with the pacing of their must-dos, a should-do can be a productive option to extend their learning. And then finally, an aspire to do is an enrichment activity that is strategically placed for students who finish the unit earlier. So this keeps them meaningfully engaged in learning while their classmates are completing their must-dos. So let's look at how this plays out within this classroom of students. We can see that everyone begins this unit at the same place, must-do number 1. From there, we see that in order to move to the next must-do, students have to master the content as measured by a quick quiz. And if they master it, they move. If they don't, they remain so that they can review and revisit. And by keeping tabs on where the students are in this whole progression, the teacher is able to see which students need her to check in and give them a boost to move them forward. And this continues as the students move along this learning progression. All students are engaged in meaningful learning, either while working with the required activities, an extension activity, or an enrichment activity. Students who need the additional time can have it because it's built into the flow of the unit. Also, the teacher is freed up and has the flexibility to check in with students to offer some in-time supports. So this model allows us as teachers to incorporate 3 things into our instruction that we have always wanted to do, but we've struggled to attain: differentiation, responsiveness, and acceleration. So differentiation because the students can work on different phases of the learning at different times. If one student needs more time and another student needs less time, they can both move forward with their learning in a meaningful way. Responsiveness because this model can build on both the strengths and the needs of the students. There is flexibility in how the tools and resources are being tapped into by students. And then finally, acceleration, and this is key for us. By being able to closely monitor student learning, teachers can identify who needs an additional boost and in-the-moment support that can move the student forward to accelerate their learning. And this is very different from remediation, that continuously backfilling and never advancing. Ultimately, this model allows us to take a giant step forward in what seems to be the theme for tonight, which is our work towards equity, because everyone gets what they need and everyone advances forward. We can engage all students in meaningful and powerful learning experiences that meet them where they are and move them forward to mastering those concepts and skills. So how do we get there? So first of all, Lynn Public Schools has a rich history of professional learning. Workshops and courses in lesson design, responsive instruction with diverse learners, using formative assessment to move learning forward. All of these are a great foundation for us as we move into blended learning. But our teachers are also a strength that we can tap into. So we've created 4 teams of teachers to start the messy work right now of venturing into blended learning. And with these teams, we're able to build in opportunities to collaborate professionally around the issue of equity for all students. And the work that these teams are doing will help us to get a clearer sense of the professional learning that all educators in Lynn will need to move forward with blended learning. So we're going to look now at what these teams are and what their goals are. So first we have the elementary science team. This team has been tasked with developing blended learning units of study for grades 1 through 5. These units will serve as an introduction to the power of leveraging blended learning so that when more formal training happens in the future, classroom teachers will have already had some experience with it already. The second team is the elementary math team. They're not creating full units of study like the science team. Instead, they're creating asynchronous resources that teachers can use on Schoology to help accelerate student learning around some common misconceptions in math. So classroom teachers will be able to incorporate these resources into their instruction so that students can review and revisit them as needed. Similarly, the elementary ELA team is developing asynchronous resources that can help older elementary students to strategically attack unfamiliar words. This can be done by analyzing the roots and affixes of words, identifying cognates and possible connections with other languages, and even how to chunk the word to make it more manageable. Finally, a fourth team of secondary teachers is working to create collections of tools and resources that teachers in the district can use and are using. And these collections will include direct links to the resources as well as how-to videos and examples of the tools in action. As we're moving forward, we'd like to spotlight Lynn teachers as they're using these tools to provide the responsive supports to their students. So having teams of teachers work together is not new in Lynn. However, this time these teams are doing something different as we're moving forward. That's why we want to ensure that the teacher collaboration on these teams uses an equity lens from the very beginning. So rather than considering how resources can be adapted after the fact for students, the adults are sharpening their collaboration skills to do this work in real time. So we're working to create an equity-based product for kids, blended learning, while rewriting how we do business so that we're engaged in equity discussions from the very beginning, so that everyone gets what they need and everyone can advance forward. Now, what I'm going to show you is a brief video clip. So yesterday I had the opportunity to have a conversation. It was an impromptu conversation on Zoom with two teachers who are on the science team, Jessica Billy and Sarah Krasowski from Lincoln Thompson. And they wanted to share with me and talk to me about steps that they've taken as they've taken the plunge into these key ideas for blended learning in their own classrooms on their own. So they let me record the conversation so that I could share it with others. We'll get you the link to the full video. The full video is about 40 minutes long, and I really encourage you to watch it because you'll hear them talk about their struggles with this, but then also their breakthroughs with it. And it's very exciting to hear from them. But right now, I'm just going to play a 1-minute clip that comes at the end of this video where they're talking about the power that they're seeing with this.
It's definitely a way to support your struggling students, your middle of the road students. They're still getting what they need, but then your students who might feel bored in class, who might already know how to do something. Well, finish the lesson, push through, and you're on to this, bigger and better things. So it just really is, I know we keep gushing about it, but it's just a great way to support your entire classroom.
Yeah.
Everybody gets what they need.
Yeah.
And especially with the attendance,
That's exactly it. It really
issue.
opens up a whole world of like a whole different lens of equity. It's like we're really providing these students with an equitable education now because we can be very flexible with it.
So I was very appreciative of the time with them, and I'm appreciative of this time to share these ideas with you as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Questions from the committee? Councilmember Nicholson?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I guess one question I had is, we know that there will be students that have not achieved the level of learning that they might have this year because of the circumstances. What kind of resources are going to be? Is this something that can help address that? You know, this spring and summer, and you know, how what's the timeline for that?
So I'll speak to one piece of that I can is you got to watch the video. Sarah actually talks about she's the 5th grade teacher, and she was talking about how she's introducing fractions with her students who are 5th graders, and they haven't had fractions as part of school since 3rd grade because fractions was one of the later units in 4th grade. And so by the time they were getting to it is when we were going into shutdown and the world went crazy. So she was finding that she needed to backfill some things for the students to bring them forward. And since she's been playing around with these videos, just creating these 4-minute videos for the kids to unpack it, she described it as being able to duplicate herself. So she would create the video and have it ready for the kids. Whoever needed it would watch it. The kids who didn't need it, they can move on to something else. And if a kid needed a little bit more, she was freed up. Everyone was getting some instruction. She was freed up to push the kids along to do what they needed to move them forward in that sense. So we're not, this takes a lot of ramp up, but this is the vision for it. And Sarah is already reaping the benefits. Both of them, if you listen to the video, by the end of the video, they just said they came to a place of desperation where they were just like, this is just too hard. We've got too much need. We need to do something different. And so they started taking this on their own, educating themselves to do this. And they would not turn back because they're seeing the results on the kids. One of Jessica, who's the 3rd grade teacher, was saying that she has a student who struggles with her attendance. And so she's missed significant amounts of school. And if this had been a different context, when she showed up, she wouldn't have been able to make up what it is she missed because the class would have moved on. But because Jessica had these resources ready, she could quickly pivot and customize for the student. And in that day that she was back, she was able to advance 2 of the lessons to get her back going. And then they both talked about students who were taking this on at home as well, that they realized that they were getting to the point where that final unit assessment was coming. And one of the students was not quite there yet. And he quickly messaged his teacher and said, "Can I do it tonight? Can I finish the unit tonight and take the mastery check tonight so that I'm ready for the test?" And she's like, "Yeah, go right ahead, go do it." So what they're seeing is many of these kids are taking on that ownership to move themselves forward. So it's a long-winded response to that, but it's very exciting to hear them talk about it.
Member Satterwhite?
Thank you. So, this sounds familiar to me, and I'm not sure if it is because of the majority of my college education was done through online courses, and it's very similar to those. But wouldn't the student have the ability to go back if we didn't have COVID and we were in school? Wouldn't the student still have the ability to go back and look in previous assignments or look back in their book or notes? So can you explain to me why this is different? Is because the accessibility to the student is there now because of Zoom or the Schoology? Is that what makes it different?
So what makes it different, and what was exciting was that 6-minute video that Modern Classroom put out originally was filmed and developed when they were completely in person.
Okay.
So they didn't do this in response to COVID and the world going the way it's gone. They were already doing this because they were recognizing that they had challenges where if you've got one teacher who, whatever grade level, if I'm doing a mini lesson for my students at the elementary level, whole class, or I'm doing a lecture of some sort at the middle school or high school level, that's one teacher that's teaching all of the students at that same time. What this is doing is, instead of me lecturing, it's replacing it with, well, I'm still going to communicate the information, but let me record myself. Maybe it's going to be a screencast. Maybe it's going to be a PowerPoint that I'm going to narrate over. Whatever it is, I'm going to have a bite-sized chunk. It's going to be five minutes long that kids have control over. They can fast forward, they can rewind, they can go back and revisit it. And what it does is it really clones the teacher. So while students over here are watching it and getting instruction from me because it's been recorded, I'm freed up to meet in small groups with students who need me there. So that's the big difference. So if we, students could come in and could review notes and could catch up on their own, but if they need that instruction, then, they'd have to wait for me. I'd have to put the kids on hold so I could provide it in person. This frees it up so that it's instruction on demand. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. But it adds another question. What does this do to the paraprofessionals in our district? It sounds like there's obviously a need. That personal connection is important.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like what you were explaining is, you have a teacher that's now able to go into these small breakout groups because they recorded a video. That doesn't seem like it could happen. It probably could happen with the smart boards in our classrooms when we're back in schools. But the component of having a paraprofessional, we still have that need in the district. Is that correct, Dr. Tutwiler? So it's not an attempt to get rid of the fact that interactions are important in these positions.
No. I mean, the two core areas where, if I may, Mayor, where we have paraprofessionals are in kindergarten. And then in relation to special ed classes, right? And if anything, this provides an added benefit of even more personalized support for individual students. It's a value add. It is not a replacement feature.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add one thing to that too, is I want to make sure, so when kids are viewing a video that I'm creating, it's not being done whole class either. It's every kid has their device, so every kid is in control of their own viewing of that.
Thank you. Member Gately?
This doesn't seem new to me at all. It seems like a combination of RBT, Rick Hells with videos, and like the Khan Academy. I've done these things in my classroom over at St. Mary's, and I believe we were already doing this in Lynn. I don't know. It just looks like you blended RBT with using videos and using, I don't even know how to explain it. Everyone does and should in a classroom move in their own way. You should have some kind of visual in your class when you're teaching any unit. Any unit should have visuals. They should be using their hands. They should be manipulating things. They should be, and they can go back to those ideas. It doesn't seem like it's anything really brand new to me. It looks like it's just a combination of strategies that we used in the past.
I can speak to that really quickly, if I may. You're right, Lorraine, it's not new. But it's new. It is a new concept here, given the fact that we now have the tools and to make this happen in a way that's more robust than ever before. I recall in my second to last principalship, it was a school that was one-to-one. Blended learning was introduced there. This was back in maybe 2012, right? So it is not a new concept. You're right there. But given the fact that we now have new tools, new capabilities, this can now become a really prominent feature in our equity initiative. It may have been done in pockets. It is not currently, nor has it been an anchor of instruction in the district.
Deputy Superintendent Powers, then Deputy Superintendent Ruggiero.
No, I just wanted to recognize the two teachers who were on that video who lit themselves up, who I think wanted to answer Lorraine's question.
Okay, well, happy to take, Sarah, would you like to jump in first?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, want to really quick go back to Michael's question as well. The whole thing with the videos, first of all, you have more time to actually meet with the students and communicate with them instead of standing up in front of the classroom and teaching a half an hour lesson that there's distractions, there's a lot going on. This way, my half an hour lesson is now put into this 4-minute video that it's not just notes that students can go back and look at. Jess teaches 3rd grade, I teach 5th grade. Our students are not taking the best notes.
Right.
So this is our instruction, our examples that they can directly go back and look at. And it's great. And again, Michael mentioned the student that was chronically absent. She was able to catch herself up, and that didn't take any time away. I didn't have to sit with her in a breakout room and say, okay, we went over this. She was able to go to her progress tracker and get started on her own. And this model, it really does free up the teacher with time, like Michael said, to have those small groups, but also to communicate with your students and to talk with them and get to know them. So for the kids that might get really anxious or stressed out during math, you can sit with them and have a conversation about their dog, because as they're doing their activity, that conversation is not going to distract any of the other kids, because either they're in the main room with a super small group or they're in their breakout rooms. And again, like Michael said as well, it really is an in-person program. So when we're back in school, the students hopefully will still have these laptops and they're able to self-pace and to go through the lessons. And again, back to absences, a lot of the time when our students are absent in person, they come back the next day. You quickly might sit with them for 10, 15 minutes. Okay, this is what we did yesterday. Don't worry about the worksheet. You're just going to catch up. And you move along. Whereas with this model, they're still getting that same exact lesson that you planned out. You based it on the assessment. You based it on the standards. They have all the objectives. They're also doing the activity, and you're doing that mastery grading. So you know that they are going to master that that assignment, rather than, okay, I'm going to give you this quick, but then we have to move on because you have to keep up with the rest of the class. This is a way to let the kids move at their own pace.
Jessica?
Yeah, I was going to just say pretty much all of that. As a teacher, we've never had the experience of saying, or I've never been given the idea to say, take your lesson and record it so that students can watch your lesson over and over again. As teachers, we're expected to go up in front of the room and give our best lesson at that one time in front of 25 kids who may have had a horrible day or a great day. We don't know how they're coming to school every day, right? So some kids may not be getting that best lesson in my 20 minutes that I'm expecting them to get that best lesson. Now I'm able to plan out my best lesson. I'm able to tweak it, and I'm able to record it. And then my kids can access it at any time they need it. So say they missed it that day, the day that they were supposed to, they had a bad day, take a day, you rewatch it then tomorrow, and we'll start again, and you move forward, and they're still making progress, and they feel successful. They know that they're still making progress, and they know that that's always going to be there for them. That direct instruction, that me modeling the skill, not just a random video online that we can kind of make work, but the exact skill in the instruction that I really planned so hard to go perfect in that 10 to 15 minutes in front of the room can be replayed over and over and over again. So I can really duplicate myself. It's really been quite fantastic in that sense.
Thank you, Jessica and Sarah. Thank you. Other questions related to this from the members? Member Nicholson?
I just quickly, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's really interesting. particularly, I mean, I imagine this is there's some like balance and trade-off, right? But particularly in something like ELA, but in any subject, there's sometimes a value of having a group discussion, right? Like you learn from your peers, or there's a role for the student who's advanced to see where they are and play a role in catching up their peers, right? Like there's skills in that sense. Can you talk a little bit about like the efforts to preserve that some of those sort of social lessons that you get that can only be done in a group setting?
Yeah, this does not replace people, right? And so that's built into it. In fact, part of the conversation yesterday with Jessica and Sarah were them talking about how kids who are different places of their learning trajectory, meaning which learning experience they're on. Sometimes they're working together based on if they're working on something in common. If one kid has moved ahead and they can help somebody else out, fantastic. So there's flexibility. So there's still collaboration that's going on there as well. In fact, I would say, there's an opportunity for even more collaboration because the teacher at a glance knows where every student is at and can quickly make those pairings. If students want to work alone or if they want to work with somebody, they can quickly put them together. So this does not replace any type of collaboration. In fact, it's a good tool to build it and extend it even further.
Yeah.
Thank you. Member Capola?
Yes. Is this for every subject, or are the kids, when they return to school, going to be spending, their whole time on the computer, or is this just for short periods of time? My concern is, being on a computer all day for hours and hours can't be great for all those kids' eyes. But I'm just wondering, is this for every subject?
Yeah, so it's not great for anybody's eyes. That's why I have these, you can see the blue there, right? So I would encourage you to take a look at that 6-minute video from Modern Classroom, because all of their examples, what inspired them, was completely in person. And it's not the kids, you're going to see it. The kids are not exclusively on computer. There's a piece of it that they use technology, but that's why it's the strategic use of face-to-face and online learning. So it's strategically used. It's not just planting the kids, and it's definitely not what's happening right now in a lot of cases where kids are on a Zoom from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it is not that at all. There are pieces that are going to be computer-based, but there's just as likely points where kids are going to be collaborating, or kids are going to be offline, completely offline. And if that's happening in a classroom setting, they might be off to the side with a book or whatever project they're working on. And if we're in a remote setting, it could be that they're, maybe they've logged off and they're working on something. So it doesn't require them to be on a computer the entire time.
Jessica, would you like to speak to that
I
as
just
well?
wanted to say that, so in a typical day, we started it in math because we felt it was the first way, the best way we could wrap our brains around it was to do it in math first. So every day would be typically a lesson, right? So they'd watch a 4-minute video. And then when we're in person, they don't have to be on the computer to complete the learning activity. The mastery checks will be paper-based. So the video is just for the core instruction, and it's no longer than a 4 to 6 minute video. So they will be watching that video at their own pace, but once they're done with that video, they can collaborate at a table of group of peers that might be at the same lesson, or student who might be way ahead can help play teacher for the day and work with the student who was at an earlier lesson. So a lot of it will be these meaningful conversations and these meaningful interactions that are almost more focused because they know exactly what lesson and what skill they're working on. And it sounds like I understand why it sounds like a completely computer program, and it's really not. It's just instead of us having our lecture, you would say, in front of the class, they can have that on the computer so that I don't have to sit there while they're doing the lecture. I can actually clone myself and work with another group in person, helping students while someone else is watching me teach something else, and another group of students is watching me teach something else, and I'm sitting with a group of students who need extra help on what they just saw in the video. So it's a really great model.
Thank you, Jessica. Other questions from members? Great. Well, thank you, Sarah, Jessica, Michael. Thank you very much for that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the ratification of votes taken in the athletic subcommittee meeting. Member Ford, you're on mute.
Doesn't help much, right? There was one vote taken in the athletic subcommittee meeting, and that was to approve the start of the winter sports season. And we forwarded that to the full committee for approval.
Okay.
Roll call.
Is there a motion to accept that?
Motion to accept the start of the winter sports from the athletics subcommittee.
Second.
Been made and seconded. Requires a roll call.
Nan, you're on mute.
What did that happen? Okay, Mr. Cassianis?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Yes, and Mayor McGee?
Yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a request for executive session. We need a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategies with respect to collective bargaining relative to the Lynn Teachers Local Union 1037, Administrators Association, and Nurses Local 3147A.
Motion so moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Requires a roll call.
Who made the motion? I missed it.
Member Satterwhite?
Satterwhite, okay, got it. All right, here we go. Mr. Cassianis?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Capola? Ms. Capola?
She's frozen.
Yep.
Yes. I see her, yes. Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Yes. And Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Yes. And Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion been made. Second. A motion has been made by Member Satterwhite, seconded by Member Ford to go back into regular session. Roll call required.
Mr. Cassianis?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Satterwhite?
Yes.
And Mayor McGee?
Yes.
At 9:47.
So next on the agenda is to ratify votes taken in executive session relative to the Teachers Local 1037, Administrators Association, and Nurses Local 3147A. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor. I think we just have to add.
Yes.
Add to that. Okay.
That Dr. Weiler will be authorized to sign on behalf of the school committee.
Correct, and all contracts are through April 9th.
Correct.
Correct. So moved.
So we will take these individually. We'll take one at a time to roll call, and it'll be quickly. But the motion has been made, and the first being on the agenda, Local 1037, to accept the vote taken in an executive session.
Second.
Second.
There's a second. Roll call required.
Mr. Cassianis?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Abstain.
Mr. Ford?
Abstain.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Next on the agenda, and as motion's been made, is the Administrators Association. So there's been a motion made to accept the contract, as well as allow Dr. Tutwiler to sign on behalf of the school committee. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by member Satterwhite. Need a second?
Second.
Second, roll call required.
Mr. Cassianos?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. And finally, the third on the agenda is the Nurses Local 3147A, approval of the vote taken in the executive session. As has been stated before, roll call is, we need a motion.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second.
Second.
Been made and seconded, requires a roll call.
Mr. Cassianos?
Yes.
Ms. Capola?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Gately?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite?
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Tutwiler, next on the agenda, would you like to speak to add some information to the communication to the committee?
Yes, just quickly, I sent the committee a draft of a superintendent's report on Tuesday this week, and in it provided some analysis of the CDC guidance that was released on February 12th, and what I thought the impact was on the Lynn Public Schools. However, on Tuesday afternoon, the commissioner and governor made an announcement that, in many ways, sort of negated or invalidated my analysis in this in this guidance. And so what I'd like to do is wait until the commissioner's proposal becomes real through a Board of Education vote, and then also wait, as he's promised us, for more detailed guidance. Hopefully that will happen before our next meeting at the 11th, and I'd be prepared to make a presentation on it, and perhaps, if possible, maybe even a recommendation at that time.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler.
Thank you.
And that's your report. Thank you. I'd like to recognize Member Capola.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I know it seems out of order, but if Nancy's ready, I'd like to read a motion.
Please do.
I would like to make a motion from the entire school committee and administration. After 30 years of faithful service and countless perfect minutes to our meetings, we all wish you, Nancy Beecham, a great retirement. We have a great card here. You can't see it because you're in hiding there, but a great card with a great gift card inside to enjoy on your retirement.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
There's seconds from every member of the committee, and I would ask it to be a roll call so we go into the record as a full roll call of the committee accepting that motion. So we'd love to have you take that roll call, Nan.
You're making me work, right? Didn't quite get this, but I'll catch it later. Okay, here we go. Mr. Cassianos?
Absolutely, yes.
Absent? Is that absent? Okay. Ms. Capola?
Absolutely, positively, you will be missed immensely.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford, where are you? Here you are.
I'm here.
Okay.
Absolutely again, and congratulations.
Miss Gately?
Absolutely, Nan. Congratulations. We're going to miss you.
Yep.
But you'll be in touch. I know it.
Mr. Nicholson?
Absolutely. You've brightened these meetings, this district, our lives for so many years. We're so grateful for all your work, your professionalism, your indomitable spirit, the unsparing kindness you've shown all of us over the years. So thank you so much. Congratulations. Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Satterwhite?
Absolutely, yes. One thing we can tell you, when we were new at one point in time, And I can tell you that when I was new, you were unbelievable and awesome. And I just thank you for everything that you do. You're a great human, and we just appreciate you.
Thank you. Mayor McGee.
Absolutely, Nan, and it's been a pleasure and a joy to work with you and your commitment to this committee. In the short time that I've been on, for a little over 3 years, you've been great. So wish you the best. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Nan.
And that was passed.
Can I make?
Everybody. Have a good night.
I want to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I say one thing?
Yes,
Man,
Member Boyd. Yes.
Can we wish Mary Jules a happy birthday?
Mary, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mary. Sweet 16.
Thank you. Big 60 on Saturday.
Happy birthday. Enjoy.
That's a distant memory.
Motion's been made to adjourn, which requires a second. And we need there's a second. We need a roll call. And
Oh, it's a really quick. Okay.
one final roll call, Nan.
Adjourn at what time?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 on the nose.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good omen.
So much for Dr. Tutwiler said all of those presentations were going to be 10 minutes each.
Hey, I don't ask any questions during them.
2 hours and plus.
He lost the over-under.
Yeah.
Okay, one last time. Adjourn at
10.
200. Here we go. Mr. Cassianos,
Yes.
Ms. Capola,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gately. Yes. Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Satterwhite,
Yes.
Mayor McGee.
Yes.
Okay, you're done.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Good
night. Thank you, everyone.
Good
Good night, everybody.
night, everyone.